Guys, welcome back to XRP Insider Network, where we connect the dots between global macro moves and what it means for your XRP before the mainstream catches on. Let's get into it. If you clicked on this video, you already sensed something was shifting, and you were right. But here's what most people covering this story are completely missing. This isn't just about Japan adopting XRP for payments. This is about the convergence of three separate financial revolutions happening simultaneously, all of them pointing at the same ledger. Institutional custody, AI native settlement infrastructure, and sovereign-level regulatory legitimacy are all colliding at once. And the people who understand why that matters right now are going to look back at this moment the way early internet investors looked back at 1995. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see a picture that almost nobody else is drawing yet. Let's start with something that isn't getting nearly enough attention. One of the most significant custody plays in the entire digital asset space just quietly landed in Ripple's corner. Ripple acquired Medico, and the first major institutional client announcement following that acquisition is Citibank, a $2.6 trillion banking giant. Let that number sit for a second. $2.6 trillion. And Citibank isn't alone in the Medico client roster. We're talking about BBVA, BNP Paribas, Standard Chartered, DBS, and several major German institutions. These are not crypto-native firms experimenting on the fringe. These are the backbone of the global correspondent banking system, and they are now custodying digital assets on infrastructure that Ripple owns. When the head of Citi Global Payments says publicly that they want to be the bridge for customers moving value in stablecoins, that they need to handle millions of transactions across 30, 40, 50, 60 markets, she is describing exactly what the XRP ledger was architected to do. That's not coincidence. That's institutional inevitability playing out in real time. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because that Citibank story is actually the setup for something even bigger. Ripple Treasury, which processes somewhere between $12 and $13 trillion annually for its clients, has been quietly outlining its plans to expand XRP and RLUSD usage across its payment corridors. During a recent webinar, Ripple's team laid out a roadmap where clients don't even have to hold digital assets to benefit from on-chain settlement. The technology converts fiat at the point of origin, routes it across the ledger, and delivers it to the recipient faster and cheaper than anything legacy rails can offer. Now do the math with me. If Ripple Treasury migrates even a fraction of that $12 to $13 trillion annual flow onto the XRP ledger, you're looking at approximately $34 billion in daily on-chain volume. Add Ripple Prime's $3 trillion per year in additional flow, and you're approaching $45 billion a day. Throw in the adjacent pipelines Ripple has been building out, and $50 billion a day becomes a realistic near-term ceiling. The question isn't whether this infrastructure gets used. The question is how fast the integration timeline moves, and based on what we're seeing from Citibank and the Medico client list, that timeline is accelerating. But let me show you something most people are completely missing when they talk about Japan and XRP. This week, Tobu Top Tours, operating through SBI Ripple Asia, completed the build-out of a prepaid token payment platform directly on the XRP ledger. The system is live. Regulatory approval in Japan is already secured. Public launch is scheduled for this year. Users load Japanese yen onto the platform, and those yen-backed prepaid tokens become spendable across travel, hotels, meals, shopping, and services, all settle on-chain, instantly at near zero cost. Now here's the number that reframes the entire story. Japan's prepaid payments market is valued at 30 trillion yen, which converts to roughly 189 billion US dollars. That's not a pilot program. That's not a proof of concept. That is a fully regulated, already approved, consumer-facing use case for the XRP ledger, targeting a market that is nearly $200 billion in size, and it went live on April 7th. The mainstream hasn't even started covering this yet. And while Japan is building on-chain consumer infrastructure, Yellow is building something that operates on an entirely different scale. The CEO of Yellow described a vision that should make every XRP holder sit up straight. Yellow is constructing an AI agent economy on the XRP ledger, and the projected size of that economy is up to $20 trillion. $5 trillion on the retail side enabled by EMI licensed AI agents with actual credit card numbers. $15 trillion on the institutional side, where AI agents settle between each other not with credit cards but with the most powerful settlement system available. And Yellow's team was explicit. That system is XRP. Not because of hype. Because when AI agents are conducting institutional scale transactions autonomously 24 hours a day across every time zone, across every currency corridor, they need settlement infrastructure that is instant, cheap, and globally accessible. Visa and MasterCard handle the consumer layer. XRP handles the institutional clearing layer. That division of labor isn't theoretical. Yellow is building it right now. And Chris Larson himself confirmed he's a proud investor as Yellow integrates the XRP Ledger EVM sidechain. Yellow Card has also integrated Ripple's RLUSD, enabling cross-border value transfer without SWIFT, without correspondent banking, and without the friction that has defined international payments for the last 50 years. Visa, Zoom, Bybit, and Western Union have all run pilots or partnerships connected to this ecosystem. These names don't appear by accident. Now zoom out for a second and look at what's happening at the regulatory layer globally, because this is where the long-term thesis gets reinforced from an angle most people overlook. South Africa has officially published draft capital flow management regulations for 2026 that bring crypto assets, including XRP, into the formal regulatory framework for the first time. This isn't a ban. This isn't a restriction. This is legitimization. XRP is now named inside a sovereign nation's financial regulatory architecture. The comment period runs through June 10th. Meanwhile, Ripple and Hex Trust have launched wrapped XRP on Solana, and Hex Trust, here's the detail that matters, was also a participant in the Hong Kong Monetary Authority's digital EHKD pilot alongside Ripple and Fubon Bank. Central bank digital currency infrastructure, sovereign regulatory inclusion, institutional custody, AI native settlement. These threads are weaving together into something that isn't a trend. It's a foundation. Here's the frame I want you to walk away with today. Most investors are still looking at XRP through the lens of price charts and market cycles. But what's actually being assembled is the clearing layer for the next generation of global finance, institutional, AI-driven, and sovereign grade. The DTCC, the New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ are all moving toward tokenization. The Clarity Act is expected to unlock trillions sitting in 401ks and retirement accounts that cannot currently touch digital assets. When that dam breaks, the infrastructure question becomes the only question that matters, and the infrastructure question already has an answer. Japan answered it with Tobu Top Tours on April 7th. Citibank answered it when they signed on as a Medico custody client. Yellow answered it when they chose XRP as the settlement layer for a $20 trillion AI economy. The convergence isn't coming. It's compounding right now quietly before the mainstream has any idea what's being built. The people in this community have been patient through years of noise, litigation, and mainstream dismissal. That patience was never blind faith. It was informed conviction about the architecture of what's coming, and what's coming is starting to arrive. Mike out.